I'm talking to myself there. Good morning, or good afternoon to those of you in Guyana who are students listening to Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption Incompetence. Welcome to the midweek's episode. That today is Wednesday, the 10th day of December in the year of our Lord 2025. Welcome to this program. Wednesday, the 10th day of December 2025, another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we should never ever take that for granted. So welcome. How are your preparations for Christmas coming? We're going to talk about that in a short while. But share the live, and let them know that we're on. My colleague CC is not in the studios yet because blackout with the part of Guyana where he is. They got blackout, and I suspect other students are similarly affected. So share, let them know. I guess they're gonna catch up on YouTube. The beauty about this program is that once the live is done, the program is there on YouTube for you to see at your leisure. So if they don't catch the live from the beginning because of that thing blackout, they are going to be able to still see it at some later stage. You know the promise for this Christmas season, the promise you're going to get less blackout. I understand the man at GPL, Nandlal, said that they're going to get less blackout. So maybe they're giving you it now so that when that Christmas, the exact Christmas time comes, the week of Christmas, you're not going to get blackout. But it is so disgusting. They talk about the fastest growing economy, right? They say all kind of things. And it's one excuse after the other. If it's not some transformer blow, it's some car crashing, there's some pole, all type of excuse. And people are suffering, especially at this time. They get blackout and thing. You can't do what you are supposed to do. The students can't come and listen to speaking out. I don't know, many of them can be very, very mad about that. So anyhow, share the life, share you're here, you're lucky, you get blackout. Some of you might have standby arrangement. I anticipate that because of the blackout, the attendance is not going to be what it normally is. But as I've said, YouTube is there for them to catch up a little later. And I can tell because right now we just passed 300 and going. At this hour, couple of minutes or we're 6 minutes into the program, normally we rolling towards 1,000 and all of that. But that is something beyond our control. As I've said, CC is affected. I spoke with him. He's affected by the blackout, and he promises to enter the studio, join us as soon as current returns. He did say when we spoke about 10 minutes ago that the blackout has been going on for over 2 hours. Over 2 hours. That is what Guyana is. That is what Guyana is. So share, and let them know. The gates are open at 8 o'clock this morning, and immediately so many students rushed in. There was a large number of students at the gates to come into the schoolyard, and when the gates were open, they rushed in, and then when we went live that the school doors were open, we have quite a number of students already. So take up your vantage point and don't let it blackout. You can't do nothing about it, right? You can't do anything about it. Those of us who are fortunate, or those of you who are fortunate to get a little standby arrangement, I guess you're using the standby arrangement to make sure that you can tune in to the program. So yes, share. Let them know that we are on. December the 10th. Imagine that, December the 10th. Christmas is just 14 days, 2 weeks actually away. It's Christmas. So let's appreciate that we're in the land of the living, and let's keep praying that the good Lord will spare us to see Christmas and many more Christmases to come. So yeah, let me acknowledge those students who came in very early, and then I'm gonna make the announcements, and then we're gonna move in. We have so much to tell you this morning. We have so many things. As I said, we had a program on Monday, and then when we ended on Monday, some things were left back. But between Monday and today, between Monday and this morning, so many things have occurred that we need to bring to your attention. We're not going to fail you. We're not going to fail you. Just sit back, relax, and let the call the others and let them know that we're still on. So let them know, fortunately, I am not affected by the blackout. First morning this morning, right? Barlett. The man came down from the hills. The man from the hills, Barlett. Then it was Ian Lucius. Ulrich West Dem. Ulrich has regained his early place. Peter Noons. Sean is here very early this morning too. Then it was Ezzy. Then after Ezzy, it's Aubrey from Canada. And Janella is here. Clarence is here. Then we have Danny came in early. All these people came at 8. John, Clarence, as I called him before, Winston from California, Rawl, they came at 8. Then shortly after we have Marcia, Clifton all the way from Paris, Puran from Ezekiel Coast, Paulette, Courtney, Barbara, Joy, Kenneth from Maryland, Pinky, and then we have Denise from Florida, Derek, Trotty is here with us. Then it was Orin from the UK, Rosalind is here, Ridley, the angel is with us, Ivor, Kerry, then it was Paulette, Bonita, and the list goes on and on and on. And when we open, let me see the first person in the yard. You know, there's a man who was always there very early, and he has not disappointed. Edward is here very early. Then it was Colvis, Joyce, then Simon. There after Simon, it was, let me see again, some people repeated, Carlton Popo, Yolanda, and the list goes on and on. Lennox is here very early as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me give you the announcements. You know, we start with the sad ones first, and then we go to the more pleasant ones. Today is 635 days since Sergeant Vaughn, Alex Vaughn, was shot and killed. 635 days since that incident occurred, and the police, they're the ones who talk about transparency. They have not been giving us an update. And the minister has had enough time to be briefed on this matter and should have been able to tell the country something about what is going on with that matter. But that is the nature of the beast in Guyana. Now, we told you about the death of Sergeant Glendon Rose, retired Special Sergeant Glendon Rose, 8916. I have the arrangements here for his burial. I'm told that the funeral will take place on Saturday, December 13th, viewing at the All Saints Anglican Church, New Amsterdam, from 12 p.m., followed by the church service at the same church. Burial will take place at the Stanley Town Cemetery. A wake will be held on Friday, 12th of December at the Ministry of Sports Training Center in Vinemans, Irving. That is for the late retired Special Sergeant 8916, Glendon Rose. Then we told you too about the death of Godfrey Webster. Godfrey was the son of Osric Webster, Chick. We knew him as Chick at the TSU. I think Chick number was 5433. He worked many years. He was in the armory downstairs, or the arms store downstairs at the TSU building there. But even before that, when I joined in 1974, Chick was in charge of B section. That was the section I was in. And let me tell you this, you know, Chick was a man, very muscular, short man and so on. And when Chick waking you up in the morning, right, you don't want your cot, you don't want to sleep towards the entrance to that. We were in C dormitory. Because when Chick come and Chick clap you to wake you up, sometimes he fingerprint you to be left on you. So you should make sure if you get up early, you move, you go somewhere down to the end or something. Chick died and some years ago. I was able to go to the funeral. So his son, Godfrey Webster, died on the 2nd of this month. And his viewing will be viewed and service on Friday the 12th. That's Friday coming, from 1 to 2 at Memorial Gardens Crematorium, Louisa Row, and Princess Street. That is the information I received. And then I learned this morning of the death of retired woman Chief Inspector Tessa Smith. Tessa's number was 13641. She died last night. Well, I had promised, I promised myself I should have announced on Friday and Monday that she was not doing well and was to ask for us to pray for her. And someone would slip me. And this morning, I got the sad news that Tessa passed last night. Tessa was in traffic for most of the years I knew Tessa. I can't remember Tessa any place else but being in traffic in Georgetown. And she was one of the enforcers of traffic, enforcers, right? Never heard her name mentioned in anything corrupt or so on. Tessa was there. You have any activity dealing with traffic in Georgetown, you were sure to see Tessa Smith around. So Tessa passed last night. And I want to take this opportunity to extend condolences to the relatives and friends of those deceased persons. May God continue to give you the strength to go through this difficult time. Now, and then saying on the same sad news, another fatal accident on the Linden-Suzaik Highway, 2 persons died. I'm going to deal with that as a substantive subject this morning. Another accident, Linden-Suzaik Highway, sometime yesterday afternoon, 2 persons are deceased, right? We're going to deal with that a little later, right? So let me deal with the more pleasant announcements now. Birthday announcements. We have a member, a former member, Edward Williams. I remember Edward Williams. He is observing a natal day today. John Elvis. I remember John Elvis as a young apprentice at the general office there with Christopher Griffith, the late assistant commissioner. Those were. So John is observing a natal day. Tricia Campbell. Tricia Campbell used to be at the Brickdam Registry when I was there as commander. And then Delan, you ain't gonna listen now because you can be in school teaching, but I'm sure you're gonna hear later. Delan Calendar is celebrating his birth anniversary today. And a belated birthday greetings are going out to BG. I miss the, Kerry. Kerry, a loyal student on this program at the birthday recently, Kerry Glasgow. And we call him BG. Kerry celebrated recently. I'm sure he's on. And I can buy the drink, ma, for not mentioning it before. And in terms of advanced birthday greetings are going out to retired Superintendent Vibert Neblet, Jackie, we call him Jackie. Jackie Neblet used to be in F division for a lot of his service. Jackie is observing a natal day tomorrow. Also observing a natal day tomorrow is retired woman Deputy Superintendent Mona Slow. Mona is observing a natal day tomorrow. And a friend used to be a very good police, was a former member of the force, and then he worked with the U.S. Embassy for some time. He's going to be observing his birthday tomorrow, I think. Lyndon Forbes, Liverpool, the ambassador. We used to call him the ambassador, Lyndon Forbes, Liverpool. He is observing a natal day tomorrow as well. I want to express or extend congratulations to all those who are observing today, who are going to be observing in the near future, and who observed recently. It's always good to have that trip around the sun, right? So yes, those are the birthday greetings. I'm still awaiting. CC is not here as yet, so let me continue. On the last occasion I bat alone, and some people said I did well. I scored a lot of runs. I am hoping that I don't have to bat alone today, but just in case I have to, I think I'm capable of doing that. And then, I warned you on Monday about being careful at this time. Monday, we showed you a house, the Best Demerara, on fire. It is being reported now that another house in New Amsterdam destroyed by fire. Someone is injured there, I understand. The man said he was cooking and the gas cylinder exploded and the house was destroyed, right? And if you recall, in the past couple of months or so in Ghana, we have had many incidents where gas cylinders have exploded, right? So we really we got to be careful with these things. We got to be careful. I don't know if the gas cylinder is from the same company. I think they're two different companies. I don't know, but I hope that they will investigate, because this is a serious thing, especially as we get closer to Christmas. When people making so much cooking, you're making your pepper pot and you're baking and you're doing all sort of thing, making use of gas. So it's a worrying thing. It is indeed very, very worrying. Let me say this, right? Let me say this. I'm gonna come to the Linden Highway issue. What I said, I'm making announcements now. There's a matter that we need to update you with. You know, today was the date when the magistrate, Judy Latchman, who is presiding over this extradition case of the Mohammeds, you know, they are sanctioned, and then there's an extradition request by the US, and the matter has been going through the court. And you know, some people, especially these sycophants, the thing was clear that on Monday they went there. The defense counsels made some submissions, and basically they're arguing that the Extradition Act, some amendment to the Act in 2009, was unconstitutional. They argue that matter, and the magistrate set today for the ruling on whether they should believe that the matter, because they were saying that the fact that the matter, they feel that the amendment is unconstitutional, the matter should be referred to the High Court for them to decide on the constitutionality of the matter, right? So today she was to rule, or she has ruled, I'm going to tell you in a while, and on whether she's going to proceed with the extradition trial, or whether she's going to allow for this matter to be referred to the High Court. This morning I said some people proper stupid. Jack, they was right, you know. People interpret that to mean that today is the day that the magistrate can rule whether the Mohammed's going to be extradited or not. And I suspect that the matter might have, that falsity might have been made because, well, compounded over the fact that the police barricaded outside the court this morning. All the rain and so they put up barriers, so people felt, but that was never it. The magistrate had scheduled on the 8th for them to make their submissions, which they did. And then she said she's going to rule on the submissions on the 10th this morning, which she did. And then let me read what happened. And this is according to Travis SGP Nightly News. A seismic legal development has just shaken the high-profile Mohammed extradition battle. Magistrate Judy Latchman has ruled that the Georgetown Magistrate Court will proceed with the extradition hearing for gold magnates Azuddin and Nazar Mohammed, dealing a blow to the defense's attempt to halt the process. I know they wanted to halt the process. I know they were delaying the thing to delay. In a strongly reasoned decision, Magistrate Latchman cited multiple precedent cases and declared that the matter will remain squarely before the magistracy, clearing the way for the extradition proceedings to advance. The Mohammed's legal team had argued that no extradition should proceed until the High Court rules on the constitutionality of the 2009 amendments to the Fugitive Offenders Act. But the prosecution dismissed that position as premature, speculative, and legally hollow, urging the court to affirm the validity of the amendment and prevent further delays. Today's ruling means that the father and son duo, wanted by the United States on wire fraud, mail fraud, and money laundering charges tied to their gold trading empire and Azuddin Mohammed's controversial Lamborghini purchase, will now face an active extradition hearing at the magistrate court. The defense has already signaled its intention to appeal Magistrate Latchman's decision, setting the stage for an intense legal showdown. The extradition proceedings are scheduled to now commence on January 6, 2026. So that is an update with you. You know, we got to bring you this credible, valuable information. Today was never the day to determine whether it to be extradited. The matter has not been tried as yet. These are objections made, and the magistrate was to rule on the objections made, which she did this morning. So now she has set January 6th for the extradition proceedings to commence. And as indicated in that post, the defense has already indicated that they are going to appeal the decision by the magistrate. And we tell you this is this is a long thing. This is how these things work. There's nothing unusual about what is going on. That is how it works. And I tell you, look, we had some Barry Dataram, Guyana case. You had Jack Warner in Trinidad. Jack Warner case take years and years and years. That is what is up. What happens in these things once people decide to challenge. And then the government had said to us that, look, for this year, I think they had extradited 2 persons. But what they don't tell you is that those persons allegedly, voluntarily, once they were arrested, they decided they'd never challenged the proceedings. Remember, one was arrested at the Rising Sun horse racing place on the West Borbies, and one somewhere else. And according to what the people said, right? According to what's reported, or they decide, well, we can go back to the states and face trial and all of that. So, but this one, the people indicated from the outset, and we have warned you that this is a long, long legal battle. Because let me assume that the appeal is going to be made, which I expect to be done. Then it might go to the full court. I don't know if it's the full court or the appeal court, or whichever court it goes to. They're going to appeal. They have to go through that process. And I can expect CCJ getting involved. And then if and when the trial starts, there's a long, well, even if they try to shorten that process, whatever decision comes there, going to appeal again. That is how it's going to go. That is how this thing is going to go, right? That is how. So, folks, I just thought I'll bring you up to date with that, right? Bring you up to date with that matter. Now, let me move on. Again, I urge you, somebody up to this morning, yesterday, asked me for the last episode of Caribbean Tea, which explains a lot of things in relation to extradition. And those of you who have not listened to it as yet, you should, Caribbean Tea, Dr. Vivian Williams, let me make sure I say right, because initially I had mistakenly said Vivian Richards, but Dr. Vivian Williams explains in detail. And that is something that if you are following this case and you want to understand what is going on, listen to that podcast, right? Caribbean Tea is the name of the podcast, right? Now, going back to the announcement, President did announce, well, Monday they had the cash grant protest, right? Outside the Square of the Revolution, outside the office of the President, cash grant protest. People protesting because the government promised cash grant prior to election. They said they're going to get cash grant. And a lot of people decide to budget for cash grant in time for Christmas. But they get the shaft. Because they hear nothing about cash grant, right? What the president announced sometime, he said they're going to give a 50,000 one-off cash grant for persons with disabilities. And they said there were 27,000 such persons. They didn't say, but I believe it includes a lot of people in the cabinet and in parliament. When you talk about disabilities, and I am making mock of people who are disabled, I'm just saying many of them qualify for that $50,000. Many of them qualify. But as I told you, if it is that you are catering for the cash grant, where there's I think they promised $200,000. The APNI was there protesting and said nothing less than 150. But as I said on Monday, and I'm repeating it here for emphasis, I believe the fact that there was a protest by the opposition or a segment of the opposition for this cash grant, even if the government wanted to give the cash grant, they're going to give you no more. Because they don't want it to appear as though they are caving in to the demands of the opposition. That is how wicked and vindictive these people are. So they are concerned who punished now. They'll say, oh, you protested, we ain't giving you nothing. We're not giving you anything. Right? That is how they operate. That is how these corrupt and unconscionable people, that is how they're going to operate. So let me wait to see what is going on. Yeah, Raul, don't preempt this thing. On the last occasion, I showed you this Bobby's Ridge thing, parts 1 and 2. Raul is saying that you want to hear part 3. I promise I have it loaded up ready to play, show you part 3 and part 4. Hope I get the time to do that. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, go on speaking out, because yesterday I did some editing and I edited the last episode and posted just that Bobby's Bridge portion. So it's there by itself. You don't have to see everything else. I think it's 21 minutes or so on. Go look at it to understand, because I'm going to post the other, I'm going to reveal part 3 and part 4. I have it planned to do today. So yeah. Well, as I said, just in case you don't get your cash grant that you're bargaining for, remember, you get this Christmas tree. You want to buy fancy big Christmas tree, you can go and look for your Christmas tree. I hear this one is in big demand, so you better go early. You better go early and get your. This is what they call this a cash grant, or the no cash grant Christmas tree. The no cash grant Christmas tree is dead down there. It's their boat. So go and make sure you stack up on it. Don't wait for the other cash grant, because that ain't coming, right? That is not coming. Now, let me move on. And I see we just passed the 1,000 lines, so maybe I can make this announcement now. I've been asked to, the Association of Former Members of the Ghana Police Force, we used to call it the Ex-Police Association, the Association of the Former Members of the Ghana Police Force, they have the Xmas luncheon, the Christmas luncheon on Sunday, December the 14th from 1 p.m. at their headquarters in Cowan Street. Just behind Soku building, they just at the corner. They have. So all those members, all those forces, members of the Ex-Police Association of Guyana, right? They call it former members of the Guyana Police Force Christmas luncheon, and it's gonna be from 1 o'clock on Sunday. And so please, those of you can make it, go there. And many times, you go is to come into contact with former colleagues and to sit chit chat and talk old time story and so on. So that is set for on Sunday. That is set for Sunday. Now let me go into one of the substantive issues this morning. I think one of them said CC coming to the studio. CC is trying to come into the studio there now. Let me see if we can get him. And then hold on, let me see if I can get CC. CC, welcome. CC, can you hear me? Apparently he's in the studio, which is a good thing, but something seems to be wrong with his set there at the moment, right? Look, we get a troll come on here. Let me deal with you early. He said, Air Fossil, how about them opportunistic IP and you knowing fully well that the government will deliver on their promises, calling a protest to take credit. Government can deliver which promise? What promise government made? Let me put it up. Somebody named Joe Singh. And once you see they ain't get no pictures, so them is troll, right? Once he said fossil. When he tell me a fossil, I remember Jagdio said Lincoln Lewis is a dinosaur. Jagdio called Lincoln Lewis a dinosaur. And Lincoln Lewis responded, yes, I'm a dinosaur, but you's a thief. That is what. So for Joe Singh, this man, yeah, I'm a fossil, but your government is a blasted thief. The thief in, that is what the PVP is a thief in government. So let me get rid of this. This is not a place for you, right? This is not a place, so bye-bye. Bye-bye. We don't tolerate them craziness. You got to go up on the next morning show, man. Not this one, right? You say, but government has delivered on the promise. You know how many promises the government made and they have not delivered on any one of them? But PNC, the coalition trying to take credit. Trying to take credit for what? They made the promises before elections. This is December, 2 weeks away from elections, from Christmas, and they have not said anything about that. If they wanted to deliver, why did he not make the same announcement when he talked about the 50,000 cash grant for the disabled people? Why? Right? So Joe saying bye-bye. Well, let me move on. I think I saw CC. Let me see if we can get you back in. CC, good morning.
Good morning,
Oh,
Willie.
good to hear you. Good to hear you. The students are looking out for you. Um, and so maybe you can give us your morning greetings, and then we're gonna. I did make the announcements and so already, and this is your opportunity. Go ahead.
Okay, well, happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. On Monday, I was doing God's work, so it was nothing to be alarmed about. And then this morning, blackout for hours. My little internet standby also went, so I'm happy to be here. They can only delay us, but they can't stop us. They might interrupt us, as the case may be, but the work of the Lord will have to go on, Paul. And let me just say a couple of things. So, hold on. Um, Let me shout out to Brother Winston Skerritt. Thanks for the contribution. And Desiree, thanks for the contribution. And shout out to Pastor Charles from West Coast Barbies and Pastor Smith. I know you've been praying for us. Continue to pray for the Guyana Police Force. Continue to pray for the nation. They need your prayers.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Good to see you back. I just deleted a comment from one of the students. Avoid the expletives on this program. We don't tolerate um, expletives. So yeah, you want to introducing come and talk stupidness, but then if you're gonna respond to him, please try to do so in the most respectful manner. I think it's easy, but don't use expletives. We're not gonna allow expletives to remain on this thing. So once I see them, I can take them out and so on. Right? Um, somebody asking, Mokan asking for me to explain. Please explain this ruling. If it means that America ever produce the evidence in Ghana. Of course, Mo, what happens now is that when the matter starts, the extradition trial starts, it is scheduled to start on the 6th of January, they have to produce evidence. They have to produce evidence to show that this crime, in fact, has been committed, right? Committed by the Mohammeds and all that. They have to produce evidence. You not just go and talk and talk. Evidence has to be produced. So yeah, we're in for some good times, so to speak. Well, the thing about it is after the Christmas and the New Year period, after the holidays, then you're gonna get this matter is gonna go to trial. Now let me come back to the thing that I mentioned earlier about the accident, Linden Suzaik Highway, right? What is reported? It is. I mean, let me read what is being reported, and then we're gonna think the matter. They report that. Hold on. I had it somewhere. Let me see. Because they're reporting this fatal accident occurred yesterday afternoon on the Linden Suzdike Highway. Let me see if I could find it and read directly what it says. Uh, I'm not sure that I have it here. But basically what it says is that this truck broke down on the Linden Suzaik Highway. At the claim, according to the pictures and so on, it was proceeding south, it's going towards Linden. And this car that they claim was speeding drove and ran into the back of the parked vehicle. The vehicle had experienced some difficulties, and they are saying that the driver of the truck came out and stood behind the truck. Then the car came, clean up the driver. Clean up. Let me show you the picture. What happened? Let me show you the picture. This thing is the truck parked there, and this is the car. It is clear from this picture that this car went full speed into the back of this broken down truck. There's no question about that. Full speed into the back of this broken down truck. And of course, the driver of the truck who was standing at the back and the driver of the car both perished. I did time. Yeah, I did time, Raul. I did time. And it brings back, let me go back to tell you that if you recall, it was in October, I think it was. I can read, I get it here. I wrote a letter to the media and we discussed it on this program. I called for the establishment of a highway safety unit, right? Remember that, students? I wrote the letter. It was carried in Sabbath News. It was carried in Kaicho News, and it was on social media circulating, Facebook and so on circulating. I called for the establishment of an highway safety unit. And that wasn't the end of it. I explained how the unit should operate, right? I'm going to read that thing to you, right? The traffic chief, in response to that, traffic chief, Assistant Commissioner Mahendra Singh, had a lot to say. Right? So, therefore, no highway safety unit, and I maintain that had they implemented that or something similar, right? This latest accident may have been avoided, right? Talk about the driver speeding and all that, that's fine. Because the evidence suggests that he was speeding. But there's a broken down truck. And in any civilized part of the world, you would have had warnings about this broken down truck. Not so in Guyana, not so. So the man drive, bop straight into the back of the vehicle, 2 more dead. The driver of the truck, the driver of the car. They are both dead, right? Now, following the my letter, right? Kaichor News on the 2nd of October 2025 carried an article headlined, Highway Carnage Continues, but Traffic Chief says no need for safety unit. You hear what the headline said? Highway carnage continues, but the Traffic Chief said there was no need for a highway safety unit, right? The article goes on, in light of the recent surge in fatal accident along the rehabilitating Linden Suzik Highway, Traffic Chief Mahendra Singh stressed that the police have already implemented all possible measures to maintain safety. He emphasized that ultimate responsibility lies with drivers and vehicle owners, who must exercise caution and diligence when using the roadways. His comments came in response to retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Paul Slow and former chairman of the Police Service Commission, who recently described the highway as, quote, a death trap, end of quote, that requires urgent attention. In a letter published Monday, Slow proposed the creation of a specialized highway safety unit equipped with vehicles, safety gears, and electronic warning systems operating around the clock to address hazards such as broken down vehicles, erosion, or waterlogged surfaces. Quote, the main purpose of the highway patrol must be to identify potential dangers, i.e., broken down vehicles, erosion, loose surfaces, waterlogged road, and so on, etc., and ensure that adequate warning signs are put in place at reasonable distance from the potential danger. I am sure that this measure, if immediately implemented, can have a significant impact on the safety of this important artery. That's quoting what I wrote. That's Kaicho News quoted. However, it goes on, the article goes on. However, in an interview with Kaicho News, Singh explained that many of the suggested measures are already in place, particularly constant patrolling. He noted that during the rehabilitation of the Linden Suzik Highway, the police implemented a more structured highway patrol system with traffic focused operations from each division. Quote, previously, there was only a checkpoint where vehicles simply passed through a barrier. Now, there is a fixed establishment with a building, mobile patrols and vehicle, and an active engagement by ranks. End of quote, Singh stated. He further explained that another measure, the highway patrol base, complements this system. He stated that since the highway serves as a vital link between Region 4, East Bank, and Region 10, Linden, the two divisions now work in coordination to strengthen traffic management and enhance preventative road safety. While acknowledging the rise in fatal accidents along the Linden-Suzik Highway, Singh stressed that responsibility also lies with drivers. Quote, that take away no grievance that there are accidents, but when it comes down to responsibility, it is not the police, is not a police issue alone. The Linden-Suzik Highway is still undergoing transformation as part of the rehabilitation works. We issue traffic advisories weekly, and there are constant lectures delivered to drivers across Region 10 and East Bank. We keep preaching to them, reminding them, urging them, end of quote, he said. The article goes on. Singh also highlighted the problem of immobile vehicles left on the highway. Quote, when immobile vehicles are seen on the highway, they are not there by chance. It is the responsibility of the driver to call 911 and report it to the police. It's free. Once notified, we take into account that the driver may not have enough cones or reflectors available. We then respond immediately, take photographs, place cones, and issue traffic advisory. This alert other road users and prevent further dangers, end of quote, he explained. Singh also underscored poor vehicle maintenance, speeding, and driver fatigue as persistent challenges. Quote, when they are not so capable, they feel tired. You to take time off so you can proceed in the same manner. That is how it's written. We have experienced this in the past. Persons have crashed because they are tired. End of quote, Singh said. And then the last paragraph, I will burden you with, it says, the ongoing 200 million rehabilitation of the 73 kilometers highway, funded through partnership between the government of Guyana and the Islamic Development Bank, includes reconstruction, new bridges, culverts, and improved standards. The contract was signed in 2023, yet since work commenced in 2024, fatal crashes have spiked, with multiple deadly accidents recorded throughout 2024 into 2025. And the article goes on to highlight some of the accidents and so on. That is the story. Now let me say this before I bring in CC. It is the exact thing that I pointed out. And not I alone, you know. Jermaine Foguera, former APNU member of parliament, who is now with the PPP, he wrote a letter shortly after mine, published in the newspaper, talking about the safety on the highway. He talks about the safety, he talks about the light that they put blinding people and no proper signs and so on. But the traffic chief is saying, right? Well, a lot of things he's saying. He said, and let me say this right up. The fact that the traffic chief could have said, or is reported to have said, that the police have already implemented all possible measures to maintain safety, and they still get these things, he should go. He should go. The traffic chief is saying that the police have implemented all possible measures. That is what is reported in the newspaper saying. So therefore, them deaths and so on will continue as we saw yesterday, because basically he's saying that the police can't do nothing else. And I'm saying this, broken down vehicle, what should have happened based on the recommendation, if you add the patrol, one of the patrols ought to have seen that broken down vehicle, and as recommended, would have come out, the people would have come, they would have put place warning signs and all of that at a right appropriate distance from the danger. And no matter how fast the man is going, it is my view that if signs were placed at adequate distance, you might observe it and be able to avoid that disaster that occurred yesterday. But that is what we have. So it's all about the messenger. It's all about the messenger. The messenger is Paul Slow. Paul Slow making this suggestion, so we can ignore it. We have already done, and he said they already get some systems in place. But you get them systems in place, and what is happening, right? People still dying. And look, let me tell you, people who travel the highway frequently have communicated with me that what the man saying is trash. He said, no, there are no safety arrangement in place, no signs, no warning, and all of those things. That is what people who traverse the highway frequently they communicate to me, right? So, and then let me say this. Um, in some jurisdictions, Guyana is not a real place, but in some jurisdictions, the traffic chief would have been held is negligible homicide they call him, and he would have been held responsible in some jurisdiction. Because having regards to all that was being said, all them things published, all the warnings given in the newspaper and all of that, and then they didn't do anything, right? It's negligence. It's negligence, criminal negligence, right? So perhaps he will explain to us why, as he said, they have patrols and so on the highway. Why did the patrols not identify this danger on the highway and deal with it? Why? Why? They're going to say, well, the vehicle broke down, and before they could have responded, this thing happened. That is why the suggestion was, or the recommendation was, you have at least 2 vehicles crisscrossing, so that reduces the time that they will pass at any spot. And this thing would have been identified. It will be interesting to know how long that vehicle had broken down there. It will be interesting to know that. So whatever investigation is done, that should be part of it too. Tell us how long that truck broke down before this accident occurred, right? So yes, Evelyn, more lives are going to be lost because of incompetent people. Because of it, because this is a simple, straightforward recommendation. You're supposed to have the resources, vehicle, personnel, traffic cones. I said you can even buy these lights, electronic lights and so on, so that when the vehicle see these dangers, they can immediately, police see the dangers, they can do. Sing said the drivers, hear what the man said. Hear what this man said. That the vehicles when immobile vehicles are seen on the highway, they are not there by chance, right? It is the responsibility of the driver to call 911, right? And report to the police. It's free. Once notified, we take into account that the driver may not have cones or reflectors available. You don't take into account that the driver might not have a phone to call. We can call. You haven't taken into account that even if he has a phone, he might not have signal at that part. He might not have credit as well. You haven't considered that? And I say, we will respond immediately, take photograph, place cones, and issue traffic advisory. This is a lot of other road users. These people are just incompetent, and their incompetence is causing lives. Causing lives. That is what is going on. Because when you're going to tell people that a breakdown vehicle, the driver should call 911. You should call 911 and report this breakdown vehicle on the highway. And then the police will respond. Police respond. Where I'm saying you have to be proactive. You have to be patrolling the highway because it's a death trap. Patrolling the highway, have adequate safety warning signs and so on, so that you can deal with this thing when they are identified. When they're identified, you can deal with it. Right? Again, and let me say this before bringing CC, I don't want credit for it, I don't want credit. You could, former MP Foguera made similar recommendations. Sir, it's based on what Foguera, or I see Ejilal wrote about it, about the dangers on the road. Several persons have written about it. Give them the credit. I don't want no credit. Give them the credit. I don't want no credit. Yeah, not only arrogance, incompetence. And because those are the people who are connected to the government, nothing can happen. His predecessor, Dennis Stevens, did not have all of those fatal accidents and so on when he was there, right? And you know what the squatter did? Call him and transfer him because there were too many accidents. Call him, transfer him. Transfer all the various traffic heads, rotate them as they say. And what has happened? Things have gotten worse. Things have gotten worse. You recall the squatter, to deal with it, said that policemen should line the streets. You want policemen to line the streets to prevent vehicles from speeding. That is what the response from the commissioner of police, that we refer to as the confirmed squatter. That is what his response was. And more families now are in grief because, in part, of the incompetence of the people who managing the traffic and the police force and the government, right? Incompetence. Let me bring in CC at this stage. See, let me hear you on this thing again, man. It's heartbreaking, something that is clearly preventable, clearly preventable. The recommendations are there. Oh man, do something to stop this carnage, no? Especially on the Linden Suzik Highway. But no, they ain't doing nothing. Go ahead, my brother.
Paul, you mentioned it, We discuss it at length in this program here. The thing is that they gotta face reality, and reality is what is happening, not what you like to happen or hope to happen. We mention it, and the traffic chief said they have all arrangements in place, everything in place. The problem with the traffic chief is his attitude, his behavior, and part of it is that he doesn't listen. He doesn't listen and listen adequately. And let's face reality. If you look at the human body, God gave us two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, two hands, 2 feet. Some people might talk about inches, but I'm not dealing with that. He gave us one mouth, and he gave us one tongue, and he gave us not only the tongue, he gave us the lips to protect the tongue, the teeth to protect the tongue or the gums. The point I want to make is that we must do a lot of listening and less talking. Let's talking. I remember reading a book, Power and Corruption in the NYPD. I think it was Ramna Ryan. I borrowed that book from, talking about power and corruption in the NYPD. And it has many parallels to Guyana. Reading it sometimes is like you're reading a book, Guyana. And part of what they said the performance of any organization or individual that does not listen to well-founded criticism with a desire to change will be prosaic, meaning be dull, unimaginative. That you need to listen to well-constructive criticism with a willingness to change, or even if you don't want to use the word criticism, suggestions. But there's the attitude of the traffic chief there. And then there's no one-shot solution to dealing with the traffic situation. It calls for a multiplicity of efforts. But the current situation now with the Linden Highway, Paul, you raise it. They know PPP, MP raise it, and other persons, that the activities that must be displayed there. And then you're talking nonsense about 911. Perhaps they don't travel the highway. Not all over the highway. You have internet connection, and then some people traveling and they get no cell phone and this kind of thing. So it is the attitude of the traffic chief. There's a fish that's rotten from your head, and if his attitude isn't there towards getting rid of that chaos, a confusion, and those deadly accidents on the highway, he must be removed. Them moving from him. His people skills isn't there. All he doing is cussing up even when things go wrong and all kind of thing there. Instead of come and putting proper solutions to the problem, his people skills isn't there. They're saying that when you reach the top, there are 3 skills you gotta get. Technical skill, well, you ain't get no technical skill in traffic. People skill or human skill and conceptual skill. You must get a little bit conceptual skill. But the thing is about the head, the head. And when they're not listening with a view of taking corrective action. Huh? Things is chaos on that highway. Those of us who do travel regularly will tell you, then you're not even seeing police. And then the traffic is saying everything is okay, everything is okay, everything is okay. If they're taking proper action, as you mentioned, the patrols crisscrossing with one in the plants, put them in safe distance so that people will be aware that hey, you're coming up to a dangerous position there, them kind of thing. But no, we have everything in place, and you have a traffic chief, plenty talk, but no action whatsoever.
Yes, my brother. Yes, the traffic. As CC said, the traffic chief. Here was the traffic chief. I got paid. His response to the thing. Listen to you. Listen.
Just when you examine this post that was made by the president, and look carefully at the spaces that you manage. Where some of us will stand up on the road and see these same things. And don't make the damn excuse for how is the aggressive nature of the motorcyclists and you can't stop them. Tell me if it's your brother or your sister or your cousin, or they look like you and you don't want to do it, tell me that. But don't bluff me. At the end of the day, if we enforce the law fairly and we deal with it as a team, we can get less of this. Instead of posting one policeman to address the issues that emanate from a motorcycle use, this deploy the whole fucking station district, all the traffic runs in the district, and address the particular issue, and you're gonna get some farmer change. And don't ask me why, of course, because I don't think anyone, if I were the traffic chief, you would accept these things kindly or commonly or peacefully. You would have been thinking about your seat. And similarly, as I'm thinking about my seat, I already get a cap. You gotta get back together and go out and do what you gotta do. Officers and inspectors in the traffic department, you got a role for play. Don't hide in one office and think about what he isn't. Why send them doing it in 4 others doing it other places? We want to know one case and two cases to move. When you police people in and they don't have a helmet, they get a ticket, lodge the fucking motorbike until when they come the helmet, then give them back. Make it hard on them. And when you see the commanders telling you but they can't lodge the bike, you got to decide certain thing or decide if you want to stay with it. Because honestly, when you see the heat command, I wouldn't be holding no strain or no brief for nobody. It covered a point now, y'all got to stand up for yourself. The Harbour Bridge got a big role for playing this whole thing. And if they can't play it, you can play it.
Yeah, you are there for yourself. That is the traffic chief talking to his ranks. Marcy looking after his seat. He's looking after his seat. That's the most important thing. He's not concerned about nothing else. He's trying to safeguard his seat. That is the attitude of the man like this. Obviously, the man is unfit for the position. The man is unfit for the position, but because of connection, man got background in the presidential guard, Background presidential guard. So he must get a little contact with them people and so on. But obviously, based on what he said, that, and I said it before, the fact that when in response to the recommendation, the traffic could say that the police have already implemented all possible measures to maintain safety. That statement alone tells me that he's unfit for the position. If you say maintain all possible measures and people are still dying, then let me understand what happened. Basically, you give up and say people are going to die. You ain't get concerned. Well, people are going to die, and there's nothing more that you can do. That is what is being said. And the silence of the government, silence of the Minister of Home Affairs, the silence of the extended squatter. But we know you get problem, you can't talk. So that is the thing. That is the thing. And all you're going to hear from them is thoughts and prayers and condolences and all them. That is what. And it has gotten to the point now where we all have to conclude that some of these things are happening because of their incompetence. That is what it is. Well, let me move on. Somebody telling me about a statement made by the president. I'm going to deal with that a little later. But now I want to deal with this matter that was reported on Monday, where there was a break-in at the Ministry of Home Affairs. Right? They had a break-in at the Ministry of Home Affairs. And if, in case you didn't remember, let me read short thing. This is some Demerara wave shortly. When someone was arrested. But hear what it says, right? A man has been arrested in connection with the break and enter and lastly committed at the Ministry of Home Affairs during the early hours of Monday morning, the Guyana Police Force said. CCTV footage was obtained and reviewed, leading to the subsequent arrest of a 48-year-old man along with several items that were recovered. Investigators said that between 3 a.m. and 4:55 a.m., the Ministry of Home Affairs building on Brickdam, Georgetown, was burgled, and several electronic devices, including laptops, electronic tablets, and digital cameras, along with a quantity of personal property belonging to staff members, were reportedly stolen from the building. Police said that sections of the Ministry of Home Affairs middle and lower flats were ransacked. Police believe that the thief entered the building through the eastern side washroom window on the lower flat, which was found open. For its part, the Home Affairs Ministry said the surveillance video shows the suspect entering the building by pulling open the washroom window and later moving about the middle flat carrying a black, bulky traveling bag. Quote, the footage further shows that the suspect exited the building via a fire escape on the northern side before scaling the eastern fence with the said bag and proceeding east along Cruel Street. That is the minister and the quote from the minister, from the ministry. All right, so that is what was there. People commented on it on social media. And many people, including politicians, made the point that this is a breaking at the Ministry of Public Security, Ministry of Home Affairs, the ministry that is responsible for public security. And they said that if man can break into the Ministry of Public or the Ministry of Home Affairs, where else? Where else? Well, apparently the statement that was made offended the minister. The statement offended the minister, and therefore the minister felt obliged to respond and hear what the minister is reported to have said. I have taken note of the comments by some members of the opposition and the unmistakable sense of satisfaction with which they reacted to the recent unlawful intrusion at the Ministry of Home Affairs. Let it be clearly understood, while the opposition was busy celebrating, the Guyana Police Force was doing its job. The perpetrator was swiftly identified, tracked, arrested, and will face the full consequences of his action. The opposition should also remember that this is the same law enforcement system that apprehended the Regent Street bomber, whose action resulted in the tragic death of a young child, and for whom the state intends to pursue the strongest penalties under the law, including the death penalty. So, to all those who choose to applaud, exercise, or encourage criminal attacks on the state, take note. Crime will not be rewarded. Criminals will not be shielded. The ministry remains resolute. We will uphold the law. We will protect the state. We will not be distracted by smokescreen or political theatrics. And let it be clearly understood, those amongst us who believe that they can outrun or outsmart the long arm of the law, just as the perpetrator this morning, believe your time will come, and it will come swiftly. Law enforcement is working, the state is vigilant, and no one who breaks the law will escape accountability. Well, I find this statement from the minister laughable, and I'm going to tell you why. I find the statement from the minister laughable, and I'm surprised that a minister of Home Affairs, who is a liar, who is a former magistrate, will make a statement like this. I am surprised. I am surprised because some of these things are so easily debunked. First of all, let's talk about the incident of the break-in minister. Somebody can report to chief, she's not listening. Let's talk about the break-in. This thing that occurred, and let me tell you all, give you all a background. Because this building, the Ministry of Home Affairs building, as far as I remember, is protected by members of the Special Constabulary of the Guyana Police Force on a 24-hour basis. This Ministry of Home Affairs building and Brickdam, 24-hour security by the Special Constabulary of the Guyana Police Force. And they're claiming, that is what they claim, that this incident occurred between 3 a.m. and 4:55, almost 2 hours. And you're supposed to have security there on the premises. And they didn't see this. They can't prevent it. They couldn't prevent that thing from occurring. And then, what happens? The man go in, the man steal thing. They say he been into the middle flat and the lower flat, 2 flats, right? 2 flats. This man went in. Undetected, of course. It appears from the report that when they see the man, they done ransack anything and so on. So first of all, they failed to prevent him from going into the building. And they did not detect him until long after. So the security slack, Minister, that's where you should concentrate on. That is what, because people could have gone in there, placed some explosive device or something, burn the building down, and set some timing device to injure you. That is what you should concentrate on, Minister. You're attacking people for correctly pointing out that it's a big breakdown in security. And then hear what it goes on to say. It goes on to say, I think the people say, hold on, the Ministry of Home Affairs thing, Georgia, was burgled. Well, let me say this too. It's Dennis Sherrall wrote it, and I've been saying this to the police. You can't burglarize a building like that. Burglary is committed on a dwelling house. That is not a dwelling house. It's a breaking into. You start out by talking about breaking into, and then you go on and talk about burgled. Can't burglarize a building like that. Burglary is committed on a dwelling house. That is not a dwelling house. So it could not have been burgled. Right? So, all right, there's one. And for the young policemen, we talk about, as I said, this is for the young policemen because they don't teach you all these things in training school now. The offense is burglary. Has to be committed on a dwelling house. You have to establish it was a dwelling house. Right? And that we talk about INDED. We talk about the intent, there's I. N, it has to be in the night, between 8 a.m. in the night and 5 o'clock in the morning. That is night, right? B, they must be breaking. And then when you do the lecture, you talk about the type of breaking. Breaking and mean damage, right? Breaking and mean, let's have a breaking into the building. You don't necessarily got to break any window or break any wall. They have actual and constructive breaking, right? Then you got to be entering. That is the E. Remember I said INDED. E is entering, and D, it has to be a dwelling house. The Ministry of Home Affairs building is not a dwelling house, so it could not have been burglarized. Are we talking here the fineries of the thing? So policemen don't run away and talk this nonsense and look bad. It is a break and enter and larceny, right? Break and enter. It is not a dwelling house. Right? So, again, when you have this type of thing, depending on the type, if it's a church, maybe sacrilege, and if it's a dwelling house and it is not during the night, then you get other offenses. You have to learn these things, right? Why you have to learn these things? Unfortunately, the people them who are instructing in many cases, those who are at the college, those who teach the commanders, they don't know. They don't know, and that is the problem. They don't know, they don't read, they're not trying to educate themselves. And if they are not educated, how come they're gonna educate the people below them? So they're gonna see files, and the files are gonna talk about burglary, and it's not established that it's a dwelling house. It's not established that it's a dwelling house. So you get larceny from dwelling house, you get burglary, which is a different thing. Burglary is in the night. So that is for this. I'm sure CC will want to have a say on it. But let me go on with the thing before I bring in CC. So these people, they might go in this building. Let me understand how the minister's anger is misplaced. This man go in the building. They said they see the man in the building ransacking the building. What happened to the response? What did they do? You see an intruder in a building that you're guarding. All right, you slack up front. So you couldn't see him to prevent him from going in. But eventually you saw him in the building through CCTV camera. How was this man allowed to leave, ransack, go through the place, and left the building? If you, let me assume, because let me be realistic, because sometimes it's one or two female on duty. They might be afraid, sometimes they're not armed. So they might be afraid to apprehend or to challenge this man who's in the building. What happened to the phone? Why did they not call for a patrol or something? The same 911 that mine just saying talking about. Why they did not call and report there's an intruder in the ministry building? And so therefore, if you are efficient as the minister wants to claim, the patrol should have been able to respond and catch the man before he left the building. He should have been caught before he left the building, Minister. So I hope that you all are looking into that slack security, but the minister focusing on the opposition members who rightly spoke about the lack of security at that building. They rightly spoke about it, right? You talk about the man go in the building, 2 floors ransacked, and you want to tell me that those ranks there were alert? They were not alert. They could not have been alert. They could not have been alert. They're clear neglect of duty, and that is what the minister should focus on. Because if they are so slack at the Ministry of Home Affairs building, imagine what happening elsewhere, right? Imagine what is happening elsewhere. So the man was eventually apprehended. Yeah, good. Police apprehended. But then the minister went on to talk about what she said. The crime will not be rewarded. Criminals will not be shielded. What? In Guyana? Crime pays. Long ago, as a little by Grub, said crime does not pay. Not in Guyana. Crime pays. You get big scandal with people involved in all sorts of criminal activity and nothing can happen. Some of them are millionaires, billionaires now. True crime. And you tell about crime. And then the ministry remains resolute. We will uphold the law. We will protect the state. We will not be distracted by smoke screens or political theatrics. I say again, Minister, your anger is misplaced. Let it be clearly understood. Those among us who believe that they can outrun the long arm of the law, just as the perpetrator this morning believe, your time will come and it will come swiftly. That will only happen if they are opposition members. That will only happen if they are perceived to be supportive of the opposition. Because if them same people get some allegiance to the government, nothing ain't gonna happen. Nothing ain't gonna happen. And then let me go on again a little bit before bringing CC. When you talk about crime will not be tolerated, let me remind you of some of the allegations of serious crimes that your government has not done anything about. Do you remember, Minister, your thing about the Sugate? Remember Sugate? Allegation from Vice News that your vice president taking hundreds of thousands of Chinese businessmen to give them work, right? Sugate. That is not an allegation of a crime. Since that you're so resolute, when are you, the ministry is going to deal with that? Let me tell you about the next one. More recently, Junior Bash made serious allegations about gold smuggling and all sorts of things involving Venezuelan military men. He called names of ministers. He called the name of the president. He called the name of the president. He called the president's mother, right? And the allegation. What happened? Crimes being alleged. And what did the government do? We're not aware. Perhaps you get some secret investigation going on. Let me tell you of others, man. Let me tell you, you get gun license running. Big crime being alleged about gun license runnings. And if gun licenses are sold, the Ministry of Home Affairs has a direct responsibility for supervising that process with the firearm licensing board and all of that. Because when last I checked, the last person who is to sign off on the approval, not the license, the approval is the Minister of Home Affairs, right? Then you have, you yourself, Minister, made a statement recently when it was alleged that the deputy commissioner had an inappropriate relationship with one of his female staff and that allegation she's being blackmailed and all that. You said that such a relationship violates the Sexual Offences Act, given the power disparity. You say so. You say it's a crime. What has happened to that? What has happened to that, Minister? What has happened to that? And let me go on. Let me go on a little bit more, right? Well, the driver's license. I'm going to deal with that. That's a substantive matter based on the statement made by the president recently. Nah? And then I say, I wish your predecessor, because you're going to say it's not you didn't about them. I wish that your predecessor, Robeson, Shoot and Scoot Ben, right, had such commitment and energy when Adriana Young was murdered, when the Henry boys were murdered, right? Then you get the murders of those men at Linden during the demonstration, Fojini and the other man, well, police charged one, that other matter. What happened? And don't tell me you weren't there then, right? Don't tell me you weren't at the ministry. You are part of the government. Or maybe because you were then Minister of Tourism, you were touring, right? So don't come and with this, as I've said, this misplaced outrage. Focus elsewhere. Focus on making things, correcting certain things. You get people, where is the outrage? When police reporting, police, that how much tons of cocaine at the police headquarters, Turnflower. Or was Mr. Ben, huh? Was Robeson Shooter Scoot Ben. Them is the things that should outrage you. Them is the thing. And if you come to this break and enter matter, you should outrage over the fact that the security is so lax. Let me bring in CC. I've had a long battle with this. Let me bring in CC, man. CC, I know you want to have a go back. Carry on.
Yeah, thank you. The whole thing, is that here the Ministry of Home Affairs building broken and entered to and articles carry away. And like you, Paul, I don't know where they get out that it was burglarized. Burglary, as you mentioned, is in bed, intent, nighttime, entry, dwelling house, breakage, IND, breakage, E entry, and D dwelling house. So you can't burglarize unless perhaps it's a dwelling house, or unless you want to say that the minister dwelling there. That is clear. It must be in bed before you get burgled. Anything with that? No. Now, looking at it from their own information, they're saying it was detected. And if that is detected, do they have a rapid response capability? As you mentioned, could they call 911? But when you call 911, perhaps some other body gonna answer, or they might not answer at all. Could they call 911 and have a rapid response? Yes, it's somebody observed nearly over an hour in the building and the person escaped using the fire escape with the articles. And then they said they find somebody. By now we expect them to tell us who's that person. Is it a vagrant? Who was he? And I'm happy that that person then had a lighter, a piece of wire, or a sponge. I'm happy that the person didn't have a lighter, a piece of wire, and a sponge. And here's the minister response. She taking credit for a matter that didn't even start yet in the court. The bombing incident. They didn't start in the court. They never finished the investigation because they sent some pieces of forensic evidence to India. They said they send, so I know that they send it by DSL or whatever. I would expect to hear that it was escorted to India by X or Y, just like how they had an officer that is sent to the United States of America to solve some bogus document on work. Here it is. She taking big praise for a matter that didn't even start yet. An investigation ain't even completed yet. But there's our response to queries. Instead of all, coming together with our team, and see what could be done, what better we can do. No, they didn't deal with that. And then let me tell you, Minister, this thing is that this thing is not about detection of crime, it's prevention of crime. And let me read the Police Act, Chapter 1601, talk about designation and objects of the force. Section 3.1. There shall be established again a police force known as there shall be established in Guyana a police force known as the Guyana Police Force. The force shall employed for the prevention and detection of crime, the preservation of law and order, the preservation of the peace, the preservation of internal disturbances, the prosecution of the protection of property, the apprehension of offenders, and due enforcement of all laws and regulations with which it is directly charged, and shall perform such military duties within Guyana as may be required of it by or under the authority of the law. So this is the authority, this is the law telling you how the police should operate. Not having cook-up competition or curry competition or favor the dance or storing pot for the president at State House or bowling ball for the president's score runs and you're bowling full top, full toss and long ups and them kind of thing. No? And then here, let me see, just bear me, let me find the other mission statement. I will go in deeper to it in another day, but I think I have it here. Just bear me, give me a while, please. Here it's the mission of the Guyana Police Force is to provide professional and accountable law enforcement services throughout through a multi-stakeholder approach driven by smart technology, resource effectiveness, diversification, reciprocal respectability, and increase in public peace. This is their mission here. Later on, maybe I'll go more into it in terms of the mission, because the mission statement has got to be smart. It got to be specific, there's an S. It got to be measurable. A, it got to be achievable. R, it got to be realistic. And it got to be timely, or some people say task oriented. I don't think this mission statement, what they get there, is smart. I say specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, and task oriented. So I don't know if the minister have ever seen the police mission statement, or as law, perhaps as law enforcement, as a person who was attorney at law, perhaps he must have seen the police section 3.1 talking about what the police is set forth for: prevention and detection of crime, maintenance and order, and go along the line there. But the minister need to look at the mission statement also of the police. And the police are there to prevent crime. And here it is at the ministry of all places, where the SCs, special constable, are doing 24/7. A man could enter through some window, as I said, spend about 2 hours there, ransack the whole goddamn place, and then escape through a fire escape. And then the minister, proud enough to say, yes, we arrested somebody, and we arrested a person, but then telling me who they arrested, and then taking praise for an investigation that isn't completed. Yes, we hold a Spanish man. Yes, we charge him for terrorism. The matter didn't even start in court yet. And then and then they had to send evidence to injure, forensic evidence to injure. And I hope, as part you mentioned, that it was properly escorted and the person is going to go back and collect it and bring it back and properly lodged, properly documented. And the person who, the forensic person who examined it in injury will have to come before the court and give proper evidence. And then I want to know what happened with the forensic building we had. Yeah? That last away being you see compound. I remember the then Vice Chancellor. I was there at the commissioning ceremony where he didn't want it there. He didn't want the thing down there. And then we hear that they brought people from India to help set up the forensic unit. So like what they're doing, like how they Indianizing the command of the Guyana Police Force command structure and elsewhere. They're Indianizing the forensic science department. Somebody went to India. I know they come back, or what happened if the thing has been properly examined and so forth. So the whole thing is confusion, and the minister taking praise. Where and a knee-jerk reaction. She need to sit down quietly and make sure that she's properly advised. But she wasn't take no advice from shooting scoot. Perhaps she should send you away. Tell it like go home and then pay. You don't want to pay, like go home and stay home and pay. Don't take no advice from shooting scoot.
Yeah. Now let me move to this next subject. Again, we got to balance this thing. We get half an hour or so, 40 minutes or so more. Now the thing that has been percolating over the weekend is a statement made by the president at the annual police breakfast held on Friday. First of all, let me tell you something about the breakfast, and that was the brainchild of Larry Leland Lewis, Commissioner of Police, right? On the last occasion, I told you about the award ceremony, brainchild of Larry Leland Lewis, to award policemen for outstanding performances. The breakfast that they had on Friday, not a brainchild of Larry Leland Lewis, right? Used to be held at the commissioner's conference room, and it used to be restricted to commanders, senior officers, senior former retired deputy commissioners and commissioners and certain government functionaries. The president used to be there. And I say this to say that was a very light-hearted activity. Policies announced there. See, the president got there and announcing policy. President had to understand time and place for certain things. We'd have our breakfast, and at the end of the breakfast, towards the end, they used to call on slow to what we call the lighter movements. In other words, you used to go and shit talk, and I used to rub everybody. I rubbed Cherry Jagan, I rubbed Samines, I rubbed all the presidents who came there in a very respectful manner, a kind of a stand-up thing. So people look forward to that, right? The only announcement that I would expect the president would have made, serious announcement, on Friday gone, was to tell the police them whether they get in the 1.5 cash grant. Every year they get a 1.5 bonus, but they make no such announcement. Instead of that, the president went in to talk about licensing. And CC, we have got to give ourselves a pat on the back. On this program, speaking out, and students, I want you to comment on it. We have been talking from time immemorial about the corruption in the driver's licensing system. We give examples. We give so many examples of the corruption. So the president now wake up. I didn't know he was another Rip Van Winkle. President now wake up. And on Friday, hear what the president said. Government to publish, and this is the article I'm reading, I think it's from them paper, the Chronicle. He said, government to publish names of drivers who bypass licensing system, 6-week amnesty issued. President Ali, this is yesterday. Hear what it says. In a call for accountability across the country's driver licensing framework, President Dr. Irfan Ali on Tuesday announced that the government will publish the names of individuals who obtained practical driving certificates without ever passing the mandatory theoretical examination, unless they voluntarily surrender and restart the process within 6 weeks. Adjusted ranks of the Guyana Police Forces, adjusted rank of the Guyana Police Force during the force's traditional Christmas breakfast, the president said a comprehensive post-audit review conducted jointly by the Commissioner of Police, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Ministry of Public Service, the Ministry of Government Efficiency and Implementation, and the Ministry of Home Affairs has uncovered wide-scale irregularities in the licensing system. Oh, Rip Van Winkle, they now wake up. According to the head of state, the deployment of technology now made it possible to triangulate, quote, triangulate every step of the licensing chain, from theoretical tests to practical certification, and finally to the issuance of license by GRA. The digitized trail, he said, has exposed discrepancies that can no longer be ignored. Quote, we can tell you all those who wrote the theoretical exam in class, and it is the only way to move forward with the practical exam. And we can tell you all those who got a practical certificate and then actually got a license. Let me read it back. And we can tell you all those who got a practical certificate and then actually got a license at GRA. President Ali said. Here, President quoting here again, if you have 150 persons passing a theory, but 400 people are getting their practical certification, something is wrong. End of quote. Rip Van Winkle. The audit now being concluded identified individuals who were granted practical certificates despite never passing the theoretical exam, an outcome the president described as unacceptable and a direct threat to public safety. Rip Van Winkle. Quote again, we have all the names of persons who got a practical paper but never passed the theoretical exam. We are going to have names in the public domain 6 weeks. We're going to give those persons in the public domain 6 weeks to surrender themselves and go back to the process. After that, we'll publish all the names in the newspaper, suspend the license, and prosecute them. That is the only way we can remedy this prosecute. That's the only way we can remedy this, prosecute all the parties involved. End of quote, E1. Rip Van Winkle. The president reaffirmed that technology is no longer optional, but central to service delivery, auditability, and enforcement. He said that the comprehensive data, now before the government leaves, will leave no room for manipulation or undocumented shortcuts. Quote, technology is your aid, your friend, and that that post-service delivery mechanism that allows us to redesign the entire system and add a remarkable layer of accountability, end of quote. He told the gathering, adding that the same triangulation has revealed mismatches on the GRA side between license issued and a number of legitimate passes. While acknowledging the significant progress made through modernization, President Ali said areas of weakness must be confronted head-on. Quote, while there is a lot to celebrate, technology has also allowed us tremendous improvement in identifying where the discrepancies are. End of quote, he stressed. The government is expected to formally announce the amnesty and compliance condition in the coming days, signaling a move to clean up the licensing ecosystem and reinforce public confidence in the nation's road safety network. They get a lot to talk about it. They have a lot to talk about. We have been telling you, people, folks, for the longest while, that a part of the problem on the roads in Guyana, this Carney is talking about, is the corruption in the system. Corruption in the system, where a lot of people I can't say the percentage and so on, but a lot of people on the road, driving on the road, right, have never ever taken any theoretical examination. They have never taken any practical examination, and yet they have been able to acquire a certificate of competence. Not what the president called. That's not what the president called. What president called, he said they get some name he called it, and but that is not the name, right? It is a certificate of competence, right? Certificate of competence. And let me remind you all, I was a traffic chief on 2 occasions. I'm familiar with the system. As a matter of fact, let me say this. I allow me to indulge myself. The current learner driver system with the package was introduced by me when I was traffic chief. Well, I should say the current, the learner driver system, because corrupted it much, right? I did an assessment along with a colleague from the university, Simon Garrick, and we came up with a proposal for this package. I had to make a presentation to the commission, the senior officers, for them to get a buy-in. It wasn't easy because the system that I inherited as traffic chief lent itself to corruption, and it was being abused. And what happened then? The older people might remember. You had to make an application to the police traffic department to be put on a list to do the theoretical examination. In most cases, they take 25, 30 persons to any one class, right? So you apply, you're on a list to attend class, the theoretical class. The list became exceedingly long. You had hundreds and hundreds, because at any one time, the class is only about 30 persons. And they hadn't that many different classes, right? And the classes was over a few days. So you had a case where the list was always like hundreds and hundreds of persons on the list. And if you wanted to be brought up to attend the class, you had to, that was the allegation, you had to pay, right? We examined the system, not me alone. I said, my colleague from UG, I had Cedric Boston as my deputy. Later on, Fred Wilson, these are traffic men. Traffic education officer, Lucius Williams, Nero, you had Dennis, Horatio, and all of those persons, we were all involved in this process. All. And we came up with this thing. And what was it? We decided you're going to put together the package. Package contained all relevant study material so that you can study in your home. You are no longer compelled to go to sit down in a class and got to pay money to get on the list. You will go there, you will buy your package. The package contained all the documents, all the study material, and then you were given a time frame to indicate that you are ready to take the examination. When the time came, you went, you took the examination. Well, even before that, we then devised about 3 to 4 different packages to deal with the questions and answers, multiple choice questions and answers, right? And those packages, 3 or 4 different questions and so on, were kept locked away in the traffic chief's office, my office. And on the morning of the examination, I would go in and randomly pick up one and give them to conduct the examination. So if you had asked me what were the questions, I didn't know. Even though I was sure, I didn't know. And that system worked well because it was properly supervised. Properly supervised. I left traffic, you know what happened, then next thing you start to hear now. First of all, we have big run-ins, right? Big run-ins. Because people, and we mentioned it here, so many, the president now wake up, right? I know the president now wake up. We mentioned it here, Rohan Singh did an audit many, many years ago. Rohan Singh, former head of the Presidential Guard and a member of the police audit, was head of the police audit unit, did an audit and found at one place, at one time, just like what the president saying, X number of persons wrote the examination, and when the results were publicized, X plus. So if, let's say, 100 persons took the examination, they're saying 200 people passed the examination. 200 people. So the thing was corrupt. You have cases, multiple cases, where policemen, including policemen of traffic, charged and placed before the court in relation to the same law and driver thing. You have cases where members of the GRA, Guiana Revenue Authority, charged and placed before the court. So the thing was always there. The evidence was always there about the corruption. So the president now wake up. So all right, you took the examination, the theoretical examination. Once you pass the theoretical examination, then you're required to get a provisional driver's license. You're given time again because you have to practice to drive. You practice to drive, and the provisional driver's license allow you to practice to drive. And then you have to do a practical test, both by day and by night. But we know the practical people are always, when you're a new driver, you're frightened to go through the sticks. You are afraid to go into the sticks. You reverse and parallel parking and all of that. Right? When you're finished with that process, right, which was supervised properly, then you were issued, if you pass, a certificate of competence. Because the police don't issue driver's license. Police don't. Police conduct the theoretical. Well, at least they used to. You know, they get some Zara conducting it. They conduct the theoretical. They conduct the practical. A licensing and certifying officer conducts the practical, both day and both night. You know, like driving and all of those things. And then if he is satisfied that you're competent, you're issued a certificate of competence, which is taken to the GRA, and based on that, the GRA issues you with a driver's license. That's basically how the system works. But the thing has become so corrupt that my information is, and from credible source, that now all you have to do, the price now is between $80,000 to $100,000. That is what the price is. You give certain corrupt ranks your money. You give, along with 3 passport-size photographs and a copy of your identification card, both back and front. Once you pass that over, you're going to get your certificate of competence. You're never going to do no theoretical test. You don't have to go no practical test. It comes to you because you paid, and then you take it to the Guyana Revenue Authority, and you're issued with a driver's license. Right? That is what is being alleged. And let me say this, because I'm going to read some more. I get pumped to talk about. As I said, this announcement was made at a breakfast in front of many police officers. Right? I could imagine. I hope that the announcement was made after they had their breakfast. Because I can't, if the president had made that announcement before breakfast was served, a lot of people would have lost their appetites. Couldn't eat after then. Because some of the same people who were there and this announcement was being made in the presence would have involved in the corruption. Many of them involved in put this way, many of them are alleged to be involved in the corruption. Right? President talk about bypassing the system. Bypassing the system is a euphemism for corruption. Talk about people who are bypassing the system. What bypassing? That's a euphemism. People for corruption who are corrupt. That's the thing, right? And they say this is more evidence that the government has absolutely no clue. NFC, no clue, right? No clue as to how to deal with all of these things. You know why? Because many of them themselves are corrupt in the process. Many of them are corrupt in the process, either sending people to get driver's license, or when somebody's apprehended, they call somebody and say, well, lose his body and so on. I'm looking for a particular tape here. I hope I could find it. But that is what is going on. That is what is going on. Yeah, I remember only recently, I might have deleted it. Only recently, the Mark Phillips, remember the statement Mark Phillips made that nobody must call and so on? He's not going to do nothing. You remember that? He's not going to do nothing. Evidence of the interference. Evidence of the interference. Evidence of the interference. Before I bring in Cecil, let me go through some more. Imagine the next thing is, imagine this. Based on what the president is saying, they know the people who have received license without going through the system, right? They know by bypassing the system, to use the word for the president. And instead of taking condign action, causing an investigation to be done, right? It's corruption you're talking about. These people should be arrested, should be interrogated. Who facilitated this process? Right? He made a point that to prosecute all parties involved. Why you gotta wait until 6 weeks to do that? Why? You have to wait until 6 weeks. And let me tell you this: to tell people that they got 6 weeks to turn themselves in and go through the process, that is laughable. Who turning themselves in? Who turning themselves in? I could imagine the running around that has taken place since Friday with the people who facilitated the corruption. Tell them don't matter with them. They're just bluffing, man. Don't bluff. You take it easy. I want back my money. I give you $100,000 now a year. I ain't like stamp ballot. I want back my money. That type of conversation you could understand going on. And if you say, take it easy, man. Take it easy. Don't give back nothing. You stay quiet and nothing can happen. It's just a bluff and so on. You're gonna publicize him? That is what the president is saying. You know, based on what the president is saying, the government is aware of all the persons who acquired the license through illegal, corrupt means. Why wait? Why wait for 6 weeks to say you get an amnesty for 6 weeks? People dying on the road almost every flipping day. People who acquire the license unlawfully 6 weeks. During that time, you next year they're killing more people and so on, right? This is incompetence and this is corruption. It's incompetent and corruption. And while you're at it, Mr. President, let them investigate the driver's license issued to people, quote unquote, Commonwealth members, Bangladeshis, Indians, right? Driver's license for drive truck. Even in many cases where they come, many of them only have car license, that class of vehicle. They're giving them truck, license to drive truck in Guyana. License to drive truck. Your former Minister of Affairs, Ben, right, waived the requirement for them to have certain time before a person can qualify. Not them alone, Guyanese. Investigate all them things because all is part of the corrupt process. Investigate how these Cubans, the non-Commonwealth nationals, the Cubans, the Brazilians, and the Venezuelans, how they are able to acquire license to drive in Guyana, truck license in particular, to drive in Guyana. None of them ain't got no license. None of them. And who employing them? Many people who are supportive or supporters of the corrupt PPP, they employ them to drive truck. They employ them to drive truck, they ain't got no license. I hear some of them police, the corrupt police make a killing because they know them. They know that they ain't got license. So once they see them, they pull them over. Jackie Opel has to visit. Jackie O, so if you're going to investigate properly. You talk about triangulation and all that. I think the whole thing is corrupt. And we made a point repeatedly that it is time that the government establish a Department of Transportation which will look at this whole driving and road issue in a comprehensive manner. Comprehensive manner. Let me bring in CC because time catching up with me. Let me bring in CC. I ain't done with this matter. I ain't finished with it. CC, let me hear you say on this announcement by the president that they get 6 week grace, amnesty 6 weeks, all those who acquire their license unlawfully, illegally. Let me hear you on it.
A joke, and it started where the announcement was made. As you mentioned, it was Larry Lewis who introduced the breakfast. Certain senior officers, and then you had what we call lighter movements. Yes, Paul used to do lighter movements, used to rob people, including the president and minister of praise and all thing money. And then after you demitted office, I took over. So I know about it. And we expect when the president goes there, that there's no time for no serious matter. You're going to announce either an increase in salary or an increase in something, or increase at the joint service would have the yearly bonus and this kind of thing. But getting back properly to this driver's license story, the theory cops in faith used to do it and they take it away from them and they give zero. always saying that Zaro is no angel, that there are no paragons of virtue. So whatever Zaro give them, there's it. There's no integrity testing on Zaro. There's no anti-corruption activity on Zaro. And this thing is so widespread, This corruption is nothing new with driver license. I remember my friend Ron Singh, retired as senior superintendent, is in charge of audit and inspection. And he did an audit and inspection and he published it that over 1,151 persons receive their driver's license illegally. And then Kit Nascimento had a letter in Stabrook News last year, July, I think the 29th. And let me read it, part of it. In talking about driver's license, I've however investigated the process and found from that personal conversation that many fully licensed drivers have been able to avoid taking the practical road driving test by bribing police officers and receiving a license. This means the obvious result of this practice is that there are some drivers on the roads who may have never actually driven a motor vehicle before becoming fully licensed. That this thing is widespread. And as if the president get his information, even you get the database, what is he waiting for? What is he waiting for? Deal with the people. Be swift, be certain, and be appropriate. Always talk about those three words Bill Clinton when Timothy McVeigh and his partner bombed Oklahoma City building. He said the action we will take will be swift, will be certain, will be appropriate. And in labor time, they got Timothy McVeigh and they were certain what charge to give him. And the punishment was death by lethal injection. President can't get a thing and dancing about the thing. Take the bloody action. You have all the evidence there. You have the database. Put them before the court. Those who received the letters, their license, and those who gave them the license illegally. We know that they do the theory with Zaro, and then you go to the police and do the practical. And here's where I say commanders has got to get involved in this practical. Paul, you had an SOP, how the practical is to be conducted. I know what they're doing now. But I always remember, and I always talk my story, Commander Borbis, I start check because every week they got sent to me a list of persons who are registered to do the practical examination. And I discovered Springlands are the best drivers in Guyana. If 10 people apply to do the practical, all 10 will pass. And I call the certifying officer, say, don't say no 100% thing and give me. Me no want no 100% thing. And he go back and talk that he is a certifying officer. He can give persons license, not the commander. The commander is not a certifying officer. And I continue 100%. So I sent for him and said, well, I spoke to you and you said you are the certifying officer. So I agree. And you said the commander can't give any like I say, I agree with that too. I say, but it was a Friday. I said, for some Monday, you transfer to Oriel Police Station, which is about 60 miles from Springlands, and the means to get in there by boat. I say, and you will go there and you will certify the boats, including the Spanish boats you could certify. If you saw, I'll give you a little couple of months some more, so no, you're taking the people bloody money, and I'm going to find you floating in the quarantine river, or I'm going to find you upon the road dead. So thing. And he went to Oriel and he spent a couple of months and then he left the work. The point I want to make is that all got to be involved in saying the commanders, they got to get involved. The commanders got to get involved. Although the traffic chief telling them, don't bother with the commandos, don't bother with the commandos, like the commanders ain't get no authority. But if it was a commando and I get rank, still me to him or higher than him, well, we'll clash. So the thing is that the president used the wrong forum to make the announcement. And even after that, he's got to take swift, certain, and appropriate action. Don't tell me about no 6-week story. Deal with it now. The corruption there. We're talking about it over and over again. People pronouncing on it. And now things are surface. You get data, you get a database with the persons involved in the corruption. And don't tell me that you're going to ask the police and the GRA to investigate. They're going to investigate itself. And when you look at it, few people doing practical tests. But when you go to GRA, it's full up with people who have the certificate of competence. And as long as you get certificate of competence, you go to GRA, automatic, you get your driver's license. So you go before Jackie Opel come into play, and you get through. But they need to put a stop into it. Nip it in the bud. People talk about it long ago. It's there. Now that it's exposing, now that you have a database, it's in there. Deal with it and deal with it. Be swift, be certain, and be appropriate.
Yes, sir, Rhoda. Thank you. Thank you. Time has caught up with us. Raul and others, we're going to come back to this same matter on the next episode, most likely on Friday. We're going to come back. But as I had promised, I promise you to show you another episode at least of the Bobby's Bridge fiasco, right? For those of you who weren't here at the last class, we showed episodes 1 and 2. And it's something for you to look at to see why, if you are entitled to National Insurance Scheme pension, why you can't get any increase on all the problem. They invested the money, $2.5 something billion in the bridge. And you're going to see how corrupt this whole process was. Review it. It's there and speaking out for you to go and see. Now, because of time, I wanted to show 2 more episodes today, but what I'm going to show today, Raul and others, is just episode 3, which is relatively short. So I'm going to show you episode 3 now, and we're going to show you the others at a later time. Sit back and watch.
Now, we need to talk about who Bobby Ramroop is and why this matters. Dr. Ranjasinghe Bobby Ramroop is not just a businessman. He's been described repeatedly as one of Bharat Jagdeo's closest friends. When Jagdeo was president, Ramroop was one of the most powerful businessmen in Guyana. And let's look at what Ramroop controls in the Berbice Bridge. Through New GPC, 20% of common shares. Through Queens Atlantic, 20% of common shares. Total, 40% voting control. But it's not just the shares. According to reports, New GPC had 2 directors on the Berbice Bridge board company. 2 of Ramroop's people sitting on the board making decisions. So Ramroop controls 40% of the votes, has 2 board members, and his company is guaranteed 15 to 23% returns on his investment with the government backing it up. And remember, this is the president's best friend. When Jagdeo's cabinet ordered NIS to invest in the bridge, NIS was buying shares in a company where the president's best friend was the largest shareholder and would receive guaranteed returns. And nobody thought to say no. This is corruption. This is the textbook definition of using public office for private gain. But wait, there's another layer to this disaster. We need to talk about CLECO. CLECO, Colonial Life Insurance Company, was a major financial institution in the Caribbean. In Guyana, NIS had invested more than $5.8 billion with CLECO by December 2009. CLECO collapsed. In 2009, they were placed under judicial management. By 2010, they were being liquidated, and NIS never recovered that $5.8 billion. Workers lost nearly $6 billion of their pension money in CLECO. But here's the connection. CLECO also had money in the Berbice Bridge. They had $605 million invested, $400 million in subordinated loan stock, $89 million in unpaid interest, and $116 million in short-term loans. When CLECO went under, guess who bought their bridge shares? Bobby Romroop's new GPC. So CLECO collapses with billions of NIS money. Their shares get sold to Jagdeo's best friend, consolidating his control even more. The pension fund lost $5.8 billion in CLECO. The pension fund has $2.59 billion stuck in a bridge that can't pay proper dividends. And Bobby Romroop walks away with more control than ever. You starting to see the pattern?
Start to see the pattern? That's episode 3 of this Berbice Road Bridge story. I think I have 2 more episodes to play at some subsequent time. And as I've said before, these are the people who walk around pointing finger at people, calling them all kind of names, all kind of names. And remember, as we have said before, corruption is not only about taking money, but using your office to influence certain decisions. And it is clear, right? Clear as crystal as to what's going on. Now let me wind up. Let me bring in CC for his closing comment. And then we're going to give you a look forward. We have so many other things that we should have talked about today. But time waits for no one. So let me bring in CC for his closing. CC, your closing comments, please.
2 things. I saw that in Bartico, they seized several bars of gold and some money. Illegal operation. But I wonder when they're going to go to Morudi Mountain, where they're destroying the environment, they're destroying the mountain. After a while, they're going to only hear Morudi, the mountain won't be there. And the Brazilians, their environment, the Brazilians destroying, and they're producing massive amount of gold, bars and bars and bars of gold at Morudi Mountain. They're declaring a certain amount, and the rest they're smuggling in bars across the Takatu to Brazil. And the ones that they declare, they are not selling it to the Guyana Gold Board, or they're not selling it to an authorized dealer. So I'm appealing, let them go and check Morudi Mountain, large scale gold mining, Guyanese, and they had a minister running things, minister in charge. And this last one here is that, I understand the police get a man under what they call protective security or witness protection. They influence him to give evidence in a matter, and Sandy matter supposed to be thrown over to the High Court. They get him in a house, they say, at Ivleri, atrocious condition, and he's being held against his will. He has committed no offense, but they say they're keeping him there in protected security till the matter is held at the Supreme Court. The man is there illegally, He's frustrated, his family worried, and they say that they're keeping him. He can't go away. He got to stay right there. His family and thing, and it's just, and there's a house in Ivlery, and they get him on there because they want him to give evidence in a certain matter. Major crime scene unit, they are the chief sinners in this matter.
Well, thank you, my brother. I have a pleasant rest of the day, week, years. And thank you for we got to thank them for allowing you to come, because we couldn't be there at the start because of the blackout power outage. Now today is Wednesday. I don't know if tomorrow we're gonna be treated again. We're gonna see a return of the vice president at the 2:00 so-called press conference, because if you recall, the last time he held such a press conference was on the 6th of November. And then rumors start to circulate about whether he's well and why is it for all this time he has not held a press conference. He was not seen in public. Then he made an appearance on Friday when they had the Christmas tree or the Christmas village lighting up. He made an appearance there. His photograph was plastered across social media. And even when people look at the photograph, they say, this man didn't look too well. Right? The photograph, some people say based on the look at the photograph, he didn't look too well. So I don't know if he's going to come, but in case he comes tomorrow, we have to remind you of the tenor of the discourse.
It was a big bacchanal just the other day with Enid and Shimakume. Big comments the other day with Enid and Shimakume. I ain't want to hear, so I pass him straight. A fella pull me and tell me wait. Same time Enid husband get off the bus. Well, it's now the Makume start to cuss. She say, look Enid, remember it's you who say how you hire your husband so total bay. Your sweet man does come home in the house too. He could only watch and he can't say, yeah Enid, woman, why you lying on me? Girl, I'm not in your category. And if even said what you said is true, you have a man with your husband too.
Yeah, woman bacchanal, the mighty Duke. Enid and Shimakume. And even self, if you say what you say is true, you have the men with your husband too. Not the lyrics, but lyrics for sale, lyrics. Folks, we have come to the end of this afternoon's program. For the cricket fans, don't forget, West Indies and New Zealand second test. West Indies sent in to bat all out for 202. Let me say this. It has always been my belief, and the statistics will support, that if you bat in a test match the first day, you're down the first day, you're way behind the game. You're way behind. You got a lot of catching up to do. But let me see what happens. This is part of the disappointing thing. Having rallied in the fourth innings of the last test to draw what many would have said is an improbable draw. You bat so well and you draw. Now to end up at 205 is a bit disappointing. But I say, you don't judge a wicket until both teams have batted. I think New Zealand, in reply, 9 overs, they were 24 without loss. So let's see what happens there. Let's see what is going to happen there. We have so many other things to tell you, but we can't do anything more. Today, the president made other announcements. President talked about the cops, policemen must be smart. They must all get English and maths. We can go into all of those things on a subsequent episode. Statement made by the commissioner at the award ceremony on Friday. Then we talk about clear up rate. All of those things we have to tell you about, but can't give you all now. We into 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. And therefore, I think you got to cater for attention span and all of that. So let me remind you, for those of you who are in a position to make a contribution, don't forget Zelle, Cash App, MMG. The numbers are there. And again, thanks to all those who have been contributing to keeping us on the air. We appreciate it. And we look forward to your continued support. We look forward to your continued support. Let's well, I don't know, Raul. Raul made a good point. If the president, or not president, if the vice president is still, he's asking whether the vice president is still suffering from that disease. Lamborghini-itis. Lamborghini-itis. Remember, I told you all about the symptoms, or at least one of the symptoms of Lamborghini-itis. So maybe the vice president is still suffering from Lamborghini-itis. Hey, look at one of the symptoms.
I don't give a shit about his Lamborghini, but this
I don't give a shit about the Lamborghini. Y'all remember this one too?
I am told that during the course of next week, we will get some more extradition requests. Perhaps Mohammed will feel a little better when...
That's about, well, how long ago was that? How long ago? That next week will never come. That next week is never going to come. But the rumor has it that the request has been made. But the names that are included in that request, oh God, gone to the Trinity Fred, oh God, the names. But at some stage it's going to reveal some stage. Some stage it's going to be revealed. Some stage. Folks, we've had a long morning. Again, thanks for your attendance. I say to you, we have a lot to talk about, and I want to leave by again imploring you to be safe. Safe, oh God, because the people who are responsible for making things safe, like the traffic chief and them, they're not doing the job. They're not doing the job, so you have got to be extremely, extremely careful. Fires, we've had 2 in the past week. One at West Demerara, one in New Amsterdam, and the one in New Amsterdam also received burns in hospital. This time, Christmas time, you get all them fairy lights and that. You have got to be extremely careful. Except, well, you know, well, not except, but fairy lights, you might get blackouts and lights that even working. And that too is a problem. Because many times you have these outages, when the power comes back on, it comes back at high voltage. Sometimes you get blackout, people forget to take off or unplug certain things. When the current comes back, it's a problem. So you got to be extremely careful and look after your safety. So until we meet again, next program is scheduled for Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Ghana time. Until we meet again, I encourage you to stay well, be safe, stay well. Bye.